Hi, this is Tom Prendergast, and I wanted to share with you a process I went through as a young kid. I grew up in a very abusive home, and my escape was surfing. So I started surfing at a very young age. But I didn't take surfing really seriously, but I really did enjoy it, and I knew that the more I surfed, the better I would get at it. So for the most part, until I was in my mid-teens, I surfed off and on. As a relaxation and a fun thing to do. I wasn't really what you would call an aggressive surfer. I was more of a fair weather surfer. Shortly after high school, I went to a party where 50-some people died from a drug overdose from the punch being spiked. I survived, obviously, but I was left for dead as a drug overdose. I did manage to wander out into the streets of LA and live like an animal for quite a while, until I finally recovered enough from the brain damage to find my way home. And it's a long story, but I wound up living in a converted redwood tree stump up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Now, that's a big tree stump. Those are big. And then from there I moved into a converted chicken coop from an old chicken farm at the Latorre Chicken Farm on 2-Bar Road. As I slowly recovered, I got into my surfing, and surfing then really meant something to me, and I made the decision that I was going to surf the biggest waves that the Pacific Ocean could dish up. And now I lived in Northern California, so I had places to surf that had big waves like Pipes, Steamers Lane, Mavericks, and I wound up getting to that point. But the process was extremely painful, and I came across a series of videos showing what other surfers have gone through in the process of getting up to that point of being able to surf waves that are as big as the 3- and 4-story apartment buildings. Now, this took me many years of reaching that point, and time and time again I would paddle out. I would be worn out. It was process of building up my muscles. I got into extremely good physical shape over the years. I was surfing in cold winter waters. At first, when I started out, I didn't even wear a wetsuit. I toughed it. I considered myself a tough guy. I didn't even have a strap to my board. I was a regular at a place called Pleasure Point, and The Hook, and Sharks, Capitola Beach, New Brighton Beach. That was pretty much my my roost, my hangout, my homies. And so day after day after day, when there was surf, I was out in the water. It's winter, summer, spring, fall. Another thing that stood for me is there is no way that you can become a dedicated surfer and have a job. So I had to become an entrepreneur, and thank God I'm a creative guy. I'm an artist. I'm a craftsman. I have many skills. I continue to improve on my skills and add more skills to my life so that I can have that lifestyle of being self-employed. So it was probably for about 20 years off and on, and then I took on the surfing seriously in really big cold water, and these videos here that you're watching show the magnitude of wipeouts. And in fact, I think the wipeouts are actually more important in your lessons in life than those times when you take off and everything clicks and you drop down that gigantic face and make that bottom turn and you come up and trim in and ride that wave. It becomes a timeless event. It is rapturous. But I will tell you this: when you're paddling out and you are exhausted and you have reached into yourself a second or third time to bring up more energy to get out there, and you take off on a wave and you think you're going to make it, you hit a ripple, you hit a bump, your board becomes unstable, the wave is jacking up, it's a huge wave, the lip is thick, and you catch a rail and you get that sinking feeling in your stomach because you know that the punishment of God's washing machine of being plowed down into the coral or plowed down into the rocks, into the kelp, depending on the conditions of where you're surfing, and you're going to be held down. I have literally been held down so long that I felt that I was going to die. I actually felt my spirit starting to leave my body. There were times when I was held down so far I would actually start to suck water in because my My instincts to inhale were so great they were overpowering my better judgments, which was disciplining holding my tongues tight. And I would clench down and push my lungs even tighter as I'm tumbling around and being held down in the clutches of that wave, trying to squeeze even more oxygen out of my lungs just to last a couple more moments. Then you could feel that grip let go of you, and it's like a big smile would come across your face as you swam. You may be 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet from the surface as you came up to the surface. Often, coming up to the surface and just getting a mouth of air, and another wave would hit you, and this process would go on and on, sometimes driving you back to shore, where you started all over again, paddle back out. And you had to. You had no choice to continue fighting it and standing against it and resisting it and overcoming it. You learn as a surfer to overcome the constant bombardment, the constant pain, the constant ache in the sore, the constant fear. And this is what builds you into a big wave surfer. Every big wave surfer I know during my time of surfing and growing up in the surfing culture were great people. Mostly men, there was a few women, but they became people of character and integrity. And it seems to me that bold challenge, that face-to-face with the elements like the ocean gives you, and facing them and actually doing something about it. There's two types of surfers. There's the surfers like I used to be when I was a kid. They were, casual surfers. We hung out at the beach and we'd surf 3, 4, 5 foot waves, and we weren't really aggressive. Then there's the serious surfer, which I became, and I believe that is what shaped the integrity and character of who I am today. That is what drives me the way that I'm driven today to perform. This is what gives me the ability to continue on in the face of adversity, being lied to, cheated, ripped off in business, disappointed, people not showing up, things not working as they are. Often in business, you'll move forward with something that you're doing and you find out that it doesn't work. You have to tear it all apart and go backwards and start all over again and rebuild, and never, ever giving up. And this is what is the character of what makes an entrepreneur successful. You just refuse to quit. And basically, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to die. That's an attitude that I have personally developed, learning how to surf 30-plus foot waves. And I did. I got to that point where I could surf those waves. I was lucky that I was down in Southern California. I think it was 1976. It was the September swell from New Zealand. It was 3 weeks of a 15 to 20 foot swell that came in. There were waves that I was surfing in Newport Beach. I surfed the wedge with a surfboard where there was a 40-foot face with a partner of mine named Jinx, John Metz, and it may have been Lance. I'm not sure if Lance was with us on that trip. We surfed up and down the coast, and it was like I had spent my entire life to be ready for that. There was warm water, hollow tubes. We surfed wind and sea when it has never been as good as it was that time, where the waves were absolutely hollow, where I would drop down on that wave, I would trim up and I could stand straight up and the water would be going over my head. I didn't have to crouch in to be in the tube. But I would never have had the rapture of those amazing moments had I not struggled and fought the wipeouts like you've been seeing here. Wipeouts is a fact of life. If you go through life trying to avoid the wipeouts, you will never achieve anything in your life. It is the pain and the suffering that makes the man, the woman, gives us the character. And when you are finally at the top and you're riding that wave and you're on top of your game and everything is happening, that is also a test on your humility. Because when it's all working, you never forget how you got there. And that humility is what makes you reach out to help your brothers and sisters who are struggling to achieve those same heights, and to help them to become a mentor. And that's what we do at this company that I'm building called Market Hive. Market Hive is all about the entrepreneur, the struggle to achieve success, the culture, and everything you need to reach that. So I want to thank you for coming to Market Hive, and I want to thank you for watching this video, and know that you can do it. Every single person has that ability to ride the big wave, to be the big kahuna. Thank you.
Holy crap, this is happening. My board's 10 feet behind me, and my leash is completely pulled tight. I can't get my legs to straighten out. All of a sudden, I'm Air Jordan going, this is going to end horribly. Like, how did I even get in this situation? And I'm just going, all right, man, we got to focus. Like, arms and feet inside the vehicles at all time. This is going to get real quick. Then I get the lip on the head as a bonus. I got a 2-for-1. And now I'm pinned on the bottom with my leash and my leg basically up above my head. My board must have been tombstoning above me. And I'm just baffled. Like, man, I wish I was on the boat right now.
Came to my mind was like, I'm gonna have the worst wipeout of my life. You know, as soon as I walked to the beach to paddle out, I could tell that was big out there. I mean, just the ocean was moving fast. I knew I was hurt because my body, my whole body, I even thought I had like damaged my neck pretty bad when I fell. The impact was so heavy that I never felt like that before. And then I knew was something wrong with my knee. When the waves start like shaking there, the ragdoll, I felt my knee going like this. But then I realized that I tear the ACL and meniscus as well.
I don't know how big that wave was, but there was a lot of water behind it, and that was all I could see was the lip for about, I don't know, 1/10 of a second. There it was just like the worst situation you could ever put yourself. It's like a building falling on your head, and it literally hit me in my head first, like that. I didn't like run into it, hit my shoulder, like the wall of the wave just like hit me in my head, and without flinching, it drove me straight into the sand. And from that moment, the impact of the sand, it felt like my ribs just went, like it just felt like I just became one with the sand.
I was sort of pumping to try and get on it, and by the time it was about too late to pull off, I was already in the lip, and there was nothing else really left to do.
I got a little chip shot into it, so I stood up pretty early, and I was going, and I seen this big lump in the wave. Like, I was gonna roll over this big lump, and as I was going to roll over it, this chop was coming up the face at me. Like, it wasn't just still, it was like getting sucked up. So I braced for that and hit the chop as I was going over the lump, and then halfway down the face again, I hit another chop as I was trying to set the rail. I got to the bottom and went to bottom turn. It was just too late, and looked up. I had no speed. Looked up and just seen this lip coming out, and I knew it was going to land either on me or right near me, so I ejected and jumped off.
I just hit a little warble, and I went down, and I was under forever. Like, just all different ways, going this way, that way, circles, up, down, around. And then it was finally letting me up, so I went for a couple strokes, and then boom, straight back to the bottom.
Like, as hard as I could be pressing into the board, and probably as fast as I could be going on that wave, my front foot just came right off. And then I hit my face really hard on the water, and it just peeled my eyes back. The next thing I knew, I was on my back, kind of skipping and sliding on the water. And I remember kind of having a lot of time to process what was happening, and it gave me a ton of time to get like a decent breath in while I was sliding on my back. And as I got my final breath in, I remember just watching, like hoping the lip was going to go over me, and it literally felt like it landed straight on my face.
Just one last thing for us, one piece of advice for all our viewers, that would be great.
Basically, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. That's what I really believe, and you know, everything happens for a reason, and just keep chipping away at the old block, really.
Skid Dog, thank you so much for your time. Multiple European champion, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the most important lesson in business always is work hard, play hard. How is it?